Hi, I'm Rachel, and Michael's asked me to just share my thoughts and reflections on this week's passages from A Bible in a Year. So really this week, the thing that stood out to me as I was reading about the lives of Isaac, Jacob and Joseph was the fact that all of them weren't the firstborn in their family, but all of them superseded their brothers in the natural order of things to inherit the blessings and wealth of their father. And that just really struck me, and what I felt like God was revealing again and again in each of these stories, and the repetition just really played into that, was the fact that what's logical in the world isn't always logical in the kingdom, and the fact that God works his kingdom out through ways that we often don't understand, and sometimes through ways we don't even find are very fair. So here's 5 things that just really grabbed and got hold of my attention this week that I just want to share with you. The first one is the fact that all of the sons were supernaturally born to their barren mothers, and their mums tried to manufacture ways that they could continue their husband's line, but it was God who made a way despite their crazy and sometimes desperate behaviour. And we know as well that Jesus was supernaturally born to his mother. She was a virgin, and God made a way for her to have a baby and to continue the line that he was from. So that was one point that just sort of really got hold of my attention. The second is that the sons all lived in conflict with their brothers, and vows and attempts of murder were made on each of their lives. And we know that Jesus was rejected by his brothers and killed by his people. And again, that just really stood out to me in each of the 3 stories, the fact that that came through so strongly. The third thing was the fact that the sons were all sent on special missions by their father, and their missions became a central part of their story. And we also know that the sons went through separation from their fathers. They went in an exile, they had an exile, a symbolic death, and they went from being the heir of a fortune to a much lower status. And they had to remain faithful through trials and temptations, and were eventually reunited with their fathers with increased blessing and authority, and that was much more than they would have naturally received. And I also love how God just weaves little details into the story as well. So my 4th point is the fact that there's a goat or a ram linked with each of their stories. So we know that Abraham takes Isaac and with the intention of sacrificing him, but God stops it at the last minute and a ram turns up in the thicket. And it's just like the language we know that Jesus is the sacrificial lamb who died for us. And it's just that foreshadowing language of every time I talk about a ram being used, just lean in, guys, and just remember that, because that means that there's some atonement that's happening here. Also with Jacob and Joseph, goats were used to fool their fathers. So Jacob wore a goat's skin to get Esau's blessing, and Joseph, his coat was stolen from him, and a goat was killed in order that blood could be put on his coat. And again, it's just like every time a goat is talked about, it's like God saying there's some deception that's happening here. And so every time you hear about goats, just remember that there's some deception that's happening. Yeah, my 5th point was just the fact that silver is mentioned 15 times in 5 chapters in the book, and most predominantly when Joseph puts the silver back into the grain sacks and sends it back with his brothers back to Canaan. And I was just reflecting, why is silver being talked about so often with such frequency? And again, silver is symbolic of redemption, and it's just a little thing that God is sewing into the story. I'm talking about silver now, guys. There's some redemption that's about to happen. And again, we know that in Jesus' story as well, when he's sold for 30 pieces of silver. It's like God's just forewarning us, hey, I'm about to do something redemptive here, and it's just really important, so take notice. I'm using that kind of language again. So those are just the little things that stood out to me this week. We'd love to just hear what little things stood out to you. So please do get in touch with us, put a comment in the box below, or email us as well, and just keep reading, keep going with Bible in a Year, and yeah, we look forward to hearing what you've got to share with us. There